So, last week, I talked about being alive. How many of you felt alive this week? All right, we got a couple. All right. So, I know the ambulance people are just down there. We don't want to bring them in, do we? All right. So, in our first creation story that we heard last week, we see the pattern, and we remember that when God created humanity, that was the apex of his creation, and he stepped back and he looked at it and he said, "What? It's really good." We may look around the world and see we ask what's happened. At the same time, though, as we look at this body that God has given to us, we've got two eyes, right? You know why we've got two eyes? Well, it makes depth perception possible. And I mean, some people might think that, it's in case one breaks or whatever, you got another one, right? No, it's something that allows us to have depth perception, to see things from two angles simultaneously so that we can understand. Matter of fact, if you've driven at night and your depth perception is a little bad, that's really tough, isn't it? I mean, it's bad enough sometimes driving at night. You got the lights coming at you, and you get into a construction zone, and you just, it brings panic sometimes even. But we're given two eyes for depth perception. We're given two ears, right? Two ears allow us to determine where a sound came from. If we only had one ear, it'd be hard to tell if a sound was over here or over here. If something in this mind, in this brain that we've been given doesn't allow us, as it takes this information in from both ears to figure out a direction that a sound came from. Now, it's probably a good thing we didn't get two mouths, right? But sometimes we do live as though we have two mouths. There's the mouth that I use here in church, and you're going to be hard to believe, right? I use the same mouth, all right? I don't have two. Sometimes I talk out of different sides, though, right? But we're given these multiple perspectives with ears and eyes. And even in our stories that we have from the Bible, we have 4 gospel accounts that allow us to see the life of Jesus from 4 different viewpoints. And even all the way back to the beginning, we've got 2 creation stories. This used to bother me a lot. It's like, well, which one is it? Is it this one? Is it that one? Or is it this that they're there to give us 2 perspectives? So if the first story that we heard about last week was the story that tells us that we are created good, that we are created in God's image, in other words, there's an image, an imprint of God within us. It tells us a little bit about the Creator and what was created. In our second creation story, we get a little different picture. There's something a little different given to it. Man and woman are created, a little bit span between these two in this story. As a matter of fact, the second story is actually believed to be the older of the 2 stories. But the man and woman are put in this beautiful garden that has everything that they need. But there's 2 specific trees in the garden. One specific tree is the tree that we would expect to be there, Because we like being alive, we like feeling alive, and so there's the tree of life. And as we eat from that tree, we find out that we're alive, that God created life. And now we have this other tree. What might that other tree be? It's the tree of not good. Everything up to this point has been telling us that God created everything and everything was good, but somehow in the second story we have the picture of not good. And man is put in this garden to tend it, to take care of it. Man and women are in the garden, they're cruising around, they're naked and unashamed. And then if we go into Genesis chapter 3, we see that eventually the people, the man and the woman, decide, they're tempted by the serpent, because the serpent tells them that this tree is going to allow you to be like God. And they think, well, we're alive. God said we would die when we eat that, but no, that's the serpent saying, no, God doesn't want us to do this, because if he does, then we'll be just like God. Wouldn't it be great to be like God? I mean, wouldn't it be good to be God? Although I'll tell you, if I was God, I would have done things a whole lot different, right? And matter of fact, this idea of eating of this tree of the knowledge of good and evil allows us to pretend we are God. And what is the logical outworking of that? The logical outworking of being like God is now we can judge things. We can decide what's good. We can know things are good. But we can also know that things are not good. And oftentimes when we judge, we misjudge, because we don't have all the information, do we? We don't know the whole story, and we tend to take this judgment that we are able to conjure up in our mind, and we begin to say who's in and who's out, who fits in. And it's a place where we can begin to say, our group is in and your group is out. Our race is in, your race is out. Our nation is in, your nation is out. Your nation deserves to die. Our nation is good because we've got it right. We think like me. And we see, look at this world, we can see that doesn't work, yet sometime also in the midst of this, we've built up our lives on this idea of what's good and not good. Back in Texas, I was asked to be a judge of a barbecue competition. Great job, right? I look like a good barbecue judge, don't I? But the reality of it is we tasted, the first round was like the beans that they made, and there were some good and some that I liked some better than others, and we rated them. When it came time to judge the chicken, we were short a couple of judges, and so we just went out to the crowd and just pulled a couple of people in. And one of the people that we pulled in was a guy from Kentucky. Now, we bring the guy in from Kentucky, and he judges the chicken, but he judged the chicken from a completely wrong standard. Can you believe that? He judged it from a Kentucky standard. Kentucky, a place where they smoke with hickory, not oak or mesquite, provides a completely different flavor. So all the stuff that we were giving high numbers to, he was giving low numbers to. And all the stuff that he was giving high numbers to, we were giving low numbers to. Because we had two different perspectives. Now, who was right? Well, of course, I was, right? I wish. We're both right. So when we judge, inevitably we don't have all the facts and the information. And we can get stuck in our perception as being the only perception, and our ideas are the only ideas. Matter of fact, I'm going to read a little section here from Mark chapter 3. I always love these little stories. There's so many parables and stories in the Bible to give us more angles to see the kingdom of heaven. But here it is, Mark chapter 3. It says, Jesus returned to the synagogue. A man with a withered hand was there, wanting to bring charges against Jesus. They were watching Jesus closely, meaning the synagogue leaders. They were watching Jesus closely to see if he would heal on the Sabbath. This rebel Jesus lawbreaker that he was, is he going to heal on the Sabbath? He said to the man with the withered hand, "Step up where people can see you." Then he said to them, "Is it legal on the Sabbath to do good or to do evil? To save life or to kill?" They knew. They knew that Jesus was on to him, so they said nothing. Looking around at them with anger, deeply grieved at their unyielding hearts, he said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." So he did, and his hand was made healthy. At that, the Pharisees got together with the supporters of Herod to plan how to destroy Jesus. God that created a world and said it was good, created the hand that can be made into a fist, or it can extend in peace. He gave us life, that we can be in relationship with other people or shun them. We can love people or we can exclude them. That second tree, that tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the tree of being able to say something's good and something's not good, is a tree that we all eat from. And we've all eaten from many times. But we find that Jesus wants to restore the image of God in which we were made. Jesus came to show, talk about the relationship, to talk about what it is to be alive. Matter of fact, in one place in John chapter 14, he says, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." I heard a guy, Rob Bell, this last week on a podcast, and he was talking with Richard Rohr, one of my favorite, probably my favorite Catholic theologian. And he said, when I read that, here's how I read that story. Jesus is saying that life is a dance. Let me show you what the dance looks like. Let me show you the movements, the flow. Let me show you how to waltz with the world. Let me show you, look at my life and you can see what the dance of relationship is. It's the relationship of love. It's the relationship of the particles that create the atoms, because it's not in the particles themselves, it's in their relationship to one another where the real power comes. And Jesus says, we should sing Lord of the Dance again. Where's Jackie? Jackie's not here. We can sing Lord of the Dance. But Jesus is the Lord of the dance, and we are to look at him and to see how he looked and he saw the brokenness of one man, and he said, stretch out your hand. In this world, that's what we are called collectively to do. To see someone in need and to reach out with love, with grace, to extend the hand and to share and show the love of Christ as we all work through this life and want to feel alive. And we can find the goodness that we were created, that image of God within becomes brighter and brighter and brighter. May it be so for you. Amen.